previous project we did was replacing the carburetor. Now today we have to replace the ignition coil, and it's a matter of loosening up these two bolts on this clamp here, removing 1, 2, 3, 4 Allen head bolts around the perimeter, as well as the, I believe it's a Phillips head that's inside there, the 5th one. Also, we'll have to remove the cable here for the throttle, the ground wire, which is right there, and possibly disconnect this wire here as well. First, disconnect the spark plug lead. To disconnect the throttle cable, there's a lever here. Pull it all the way to where the throttle will be fully engaged, and that should release the crimped end. Then it's simply a matter of using a screwdriver to lift it out of the slot. So now this has been safely disengaged. Disconnect this lead here, and the next will be the Allen head screws around the perimeter. Not sure what the metric size is for this Allen head screw, but what it says on the side of the socket here is HW3, and it's simply just a matter of going around the perimeter. I prefer to use old school ratchets as opposed to the battery powered ones. First of all, I'm not crazy about having lithium in my shop, and second of all, this you can better gauge how much torque is being applied, so you don't run the risk of snapping a machine screw inside the housing. This Allen head bolt appears to be a bit corroded, so I'm going to probably put some penetrant in there to let it soak for a little bit. And also, I noticed that the length of the shaft is insufficient to reach all the way down, so I'm going to have to go back into my Allen head key assortment to find the appropriate size. I'm not being compensated by these folks, but this is excellent stuff to use. So I'm just going to, basically what I've done is I've suspended it like this temporarily, just to allow me to get in here and put a couple of drops in there, and we'll let that soak for a bit. So I've gone and removed one of the Allen head machine screws. Of course, we'll kiss it on the wire brush and clean off any of the Loctite or debris that may be on those threads, and then prior to reassembly we'll add some anti-seize lubricant back to the threads. So now we'll determine from our assortment of keys here which is the appropriate size. So I'm not sure if this is going to be able to reveal it or not with the light reflecting, but it appears, let's see if I can get that to turn. That is a 3mm is what it's saying on here. There we go. 3mm is the appropriate size. So I took a little effort, but I got it installed, I think, deep enough into the recess of the Allen head machine screw. Now, just a safety tip, what I've done, because I did not want to have my bare hand on this, just in case it would have broken, because I always be thinking ahead of what could possibly go wrong. And I was thinking if this was to shatter or break across here, this possibly being brittle, it would have probably laid open my hand. So always be wearing thick gloves or using a rag such as this as an insulator between your hand and the area that could possibly cut you. So what I was successful was getting it broke loose, and then now it's just a matter of extracting the stuck fastener. So in retrospect, what I think part of the problem of getting this fastener out was the fact of its close proximity to the exhaust, the exhaust port, and you can see just how nasty that part is, but we managed to get it out safely without any injury and without snapping the part. Next, it's time to remove the two 8mm screws securing a clamp to the shaft here. And now that you've already removed the throttle cable and the electrical lines, this should just pull right apart. I'm going to see if I can pull this apart without losing everything here. Just like that. And of course, here's the shaft. So now we can put this over here, safely out of the way. And we can focus our attention on this piece here. Of course, this little collar comes off. And if I had a lick of sense, I would be clearing off some of my countertop for workspace. Okay, so I followed some of my own advice and I've gotten workspace now. As you can see, this fastener, this one, and this one, all four have been removed. The problem is this little guy right here. And I have tried penetrant. I can't even actually find the head of the bolt. It almost looks like it's a slotted screw. But a couple of things going against me. Number one, I'm sure they have Loctite on those threads. Second of all, I'm sure it's a carbon steel bolt going into an aluminum or zinc aluminum alloy, two dissimilar metals. And due to all the heat cycles and everything else, we probably have some electrolytic action going on. Bottom line is the son of a gun's frozen. So somehow or another, we're going to have to get it out of there, whether we have to drill it and re-thread a new one, or I'll return when I determine a solution here. Near the exhaust side, I'm seeing another fastener here. So let's see if we take that off, not us anything, or if it's just going to cause more aggravation. At the very least, this is rather dirty inside there, so if nothing else, we can at least clean it up. Well, you can see by the shavings, what I ended up doing was progressively drilling the hole larger and larger until I got it out, which revealed then the stud. I can get a bite on that, and hopefully this piece here, yes, here are the remaining bits of the washer, perhaps even the bolt head. But surprisingly, I was able to save this part intact and not, through patience, not damage it. So now I can put some penetrant in there, maybe get some vice grips on here, and then remove it gently. So after applying some Coil penetrant and working with the vice grips back and forth in this manner, perpendicular like this, now I'm able to finally extract the problem child here. Now it's just a matter of finding another metric bolt. But thank goodness, if there's anything old age has taught me, patience. So now with that top fastener removed, we can simply, hopefully simply, extract this piece. I'm trying to do it single-handedly. See if I can set this down, if that's going to work. There we go. So now you can see the two pieces. And let's hope and pray that we did in fact receive the correct coil. Well, it looks like we're in business, because this appears to be the correct coil. So the next step will be removing these two fasteners, turning this to a point where it's away from the magnets, reinstalling it, inserting a credit card as the gauge for clearance between the magnets and flywheel here. Credit card is the old trick we used to use in the old days. for 16,000ths of an inch when setting the ignition points in a car when you did not have ignition points readily available. Once you have the two fasteners attached and torqued down, well, let me back up. Once you get this in place, you put a business card in here between the coil and the flywheel here, and then you can go ahead and torque these two fasteners down, and then you simply remove this. You saw the ordeal I had trying to get this out of here, so what I've done is out of my assortment, I managed to find the proper size bolt, which in this case was an M5 out of here. Let's see, yeah, M5 right there. And that's the appropriate size for here. And it looks like length is not really going to be an issue because it's going to be going down this distance. So accounting for the fact that it's going through this piece and the residual part going down here, you can see where it's not going to be in any danger of touching anything. So we have about the right length. This kind of matching it up with the old size piece right there. We may be slightly longer than the original, but ever so close. So this part might be a little tedious, but just take it slow. Obviously, this seal here has to fit in this slot right here. And if you notice, when you close this, there's a little gap there, which is for this wire right here to fit in. So it's going to fit something along the lines like this, and then it's going to clamp down like that. So without the benefit of a tripod, I'll just have to show you the results afterwards. So there's a little tab right here that you should put in first, and then simultaneously trying to hold this rubber insulator in place, ensuring that this extra piece of insulation is wrapped around the spark plug lead, and then you can see where the other, get the light right, the other wire is will be captured correctly. Very carefully and hold this securely so it doesn't go flying on you. I like to clean off the threads of the remaining fasteners with the wire brush. Apply a dab of anti-seize to the threads, and then go ahead and start the process of the reassembly. I have to run them in by hand, a few threads, just to ensure nothing's going to cross thread. Always be wearing proper PPE around rotating the equipment, and that includes, of course, without saying, safety glasses. But these little cheaters, I don't know if you can see in the lower right hand corner of the lens, as you can see it's a built-in, what I call cheater lens. These are basically built-in reading glasses into the clear safety glass above it. Highly recommend. They come in various power, you know, like 1.5, 1.75, 2.25, etc. Depending on what you need. Highly recommend you picking up a set of these. And finally install what I'm going to call the spark plug guard, because the spark plug is in close proximity. Making sure that it's engaged back in here, because as you draw this down, that's going to pull this together. Find the appropriate size deep well socket for your spark plug and remove it. Not too bad. In my case, the spark plug is a NGK brand. B as in Bravo, P Papa, and Mary 8 Y Yankee. The spark plug they give you is this L7T Chinese, which we'll use it for the moment, but we're going to order a proper NGK spark plug. We'll want to check your spark plug gap. I prefer to use this type of wire gauge, and I've already run it through here. You just put it in there, and I don't have three hands to hold the camera, but you get the idea. You're going to check the gap between here, this, and then you'll slide the gauge out to confirm that the clearance. In this case, my gauge was 25,000ths of an inch, 0.025 inches. And if I'm not mistaken, the specification is somewhere between 24 and 26,000, so we're good. Once you've reinstalled the spark plug, now it's simply a matter of attaching spark plug wire. And now we're going to start the assembly back onto the shaft. Prior to installing, ensure that both the top and bottom collars are in place. And as you can see, the top one is larger bore than the bottom, as the bottom is going to contain the threaded portion where the fasteners will attach. These two fasteners right here. I like to clean those threads first, then put some anti-seize on them. While you have it apart, this is the drive shaft. As I was trying to indicate earlier, both of the ends have a square cross section, as you can see. And that's actually when if you turn this, you can actually see the head down there turning. As you can see, I'm turning it like this. There's a corresponding, if I can get the light to shine in there, just right there. There's a corresponding shaft in there that has to engage with the drive shaft. Now, there is a proper procedure, which I'm not going to go through in this video. I believe it's removing this fitting here and pumping grease in there. But since you got it apart, this would be the time to, I like to use some high temperature disc drum brake wheel bearing grease. Just take a bunch of this and smear it along the shaft and to lubricate it somewhat. It appears as if, in all these years I've been using it, there is still some grease on here, but there could be more. Once you have everything assembled, pull the starter cord a couple of times. First, that doesn't sound right, so now we got to take it apart. Something's not right. So I'm not sure how this came out of adjustment, but the bottom line is you can see where it has been scraping on the magnets. So I'll take this time, first of all, to clean this off with a little wire brush. But second of all, I need to make sure that maybe I didn't have it torqued down enough. Or maybe when I was reattaching this, it forced it down somewhat. But again, that should not have happened if this was torqued down correctly. But that's definitely where the noise was coming from. Okay, we've got the business card in there, and as you can see, it's turning freely. The only thing I can think is perhaps as I was torquing this down, it might have been biting this and driving it in, compressing the credit card. So it may be best to use a metal gauge in the future. I think we have it now because it's turning. I'm not feeling any resistance other than the compression in the cylinder. And I'm going to set this down in some manner. Okay, we'll try this again. And let's see if there's... Oh no. That's the way it's supposed to sound. Much better. Once you get these two, I believe they were 8mm, yes, 8mm bolts torqued down, you'll want to go ahead and remove this one again because this ground wire needs to be attached. Now I realize some would say, why did you attach that bolt? Well, I wanted to make sure everything was in perfect alignment first. And since there were only 4 bolts to primarily do the alignment, I thought it was important to leave it in. I could always remove it, which I'm doing now, to install the ground wire. As you can see, I've already gone and attached this wire as well. And then the throttle cable will be reattached. It's going to take a little finagling, basically just to get the crimped end to go back into the slot where it belongs. And again, be mindful, this cannot go in either direction. There is a hole drilled in here to allow this crimped end to fit inside the brass piece on the top. And as you can see, what I'm going to try to do with one hand, push it back in there into place. So now you can see it's back into place, and what it can do now is function properly. And now it's time to put some fuel in it and see what happens. Okay, here we go. Dry start. Probably going to have to prime it a few times to get the fuel into the carburetor. Matching it. So now we've got fuel flowing through here. We got it choked. We're going to see what happens here. Now it's idling, which it never did before. Oh heck, this feels so good. I can't resist. Wonderful. But I'm not ready to hang out my shingle to repair other people's string trimmers.